Have you ever wondered how an entire country keeps its books? It's actually not that different from how we manage our own money, just on a way, way bigger scale. Today, we're going to unravel the economic story of a nation, what it makes, what it spends, and what it owes the rest of the world.
So let's just start with a number. A number that's so big it's kind of hard to even wrap your head around. $11 trillion. At the end of 2019, that was the net foreign debt of the United States. That's what made it the single largest debtor nation on the entire planet.
So the big question is, how on earth does a country rack up a debt that massive? Well, the answer is hiding in plain sight, right inside its economic books. And just like any good accounting, it's a story told in two parts that have to, and I mean have to, always balance out in the end.
To make sense of all this, let's think of a country's entire economy as being recorded in two big interconnected ledgers. This whole tale of two ledgers idea is really the key to understanding everything we're going to talk about today.
Okay, so on one side, you've got the national income accounts. This ledger, let's call it the production ledger, tracks everything a country produces and earns. It's the story of its internal economy. Then, on the other side, you have the balance of payments accounts, the external ledger. This one tracks every single transaction with the outside world. The real magic happens when you see how these two stories are perfectly linked.
All right, let's start with that first ledger, the one that tells us the story of what a country actually produces.
The star of the show here is something called Gross National Product, or GNP. It's basically the total value of all the final stuff, the cars, the software, the haircuts, that a country's people and its companies produce in a year. Now here's the crucial part. A country's total production, its GNP, is also its total national income, right? Because every dollar somebody spends on a product ends up as income in somebody else's pocket.
So where does all this income go? Well, you can see here it gets split into four main buckets. For the US, the biggest piece of the pie, no surprise, is consumption. That's all of us, households buying stuff. Then you've got investment by businesses and what the government buys. But see that little sliver at the top, the one labeled current account? Notice how it's negative. Just keep that in the back of your mind. We are definitely coming back to that.
This all leads us to a really fundamental equation in economics. It says a country's total income, which we call Y, has to be equal to what it spends on consumption, C, investment, I, and government, G, plus the difference between its exports and its imports. This is like the master formula for any economy that trades with the rest of the world.
Okay, time for our second ledger, the balance of payments. Think of this as the super detailed record keeper of every single one of those international transactions, from you buying a car made overseas to a foreign company buying US stocks. Now, the balance of payments runs on one simple, powerful, and totally unbreakable rule: double-entry bookkeeping. For every single transaction, there has to be an equal and opposite entry somewhere else. Every credit gets a debit, period. No exceptions.
And this example just illustrates it perfectly. Let's say you buy a $1,000 machine from a company in Italy. Okay, that's an import. On the US books, that's a $1,000 debit. But what happens to the check you wrote? Well, the Italian company deposits it into a US bank. By doing that, they have just purchased a US asset, that bank deposit. And that's the offsetting credit. The import of a good is perfectly balanced by the export of a financial asset. It's beautiful, right?
Okay, so we've got our two ledgers. Now, let's build the bridge that connects them. And that bridge has a name we've already heard: the current account.
We already saw the current account pop up in our GNP equation. At its most basic, it's just a country's exports minus its imports. If you export more than you import, that number is positive and you have a surplus. If you import more, it's negative and you have a deficit.
But, and this is a big but, there is a much, much deeper way to understand the current account. If we just take that GNP formula from before and shuffle it around a little bit, we uncover its true meaning for a country's economy.
And there it is. This is a total game changer. The current account isn't just about exports and imports. It's also the difference between what a country earns, its national income, and what it spends. So a current account deficit doesn't just mean you're buying more foreign stuff. It means your country as a whole is literally spending more money than it is making.
So, how can an entire country spend more than it earns? Well, the same way you or I would, by borrowing. This right here, this is the absolute key takeaway. A current account deficit is a direct measurement of how much a country is borrowing from the rest of the world. And if you're borrowing more every year, your total net foreign debt just keeps going up, up, and up. This direct line we can draw from a country's spending habits to its international borrowing brings us to the last few pieces of our puzzle: national saving and investment.
So think about it. What happens to all the money a country saves? It really only has two places to go. It can be used to fund investment at home, building new factories, new technologies, or it can be used to buy foreign assets. So a country with a current account surplus is actually a net lender to the world, and a country with a deficit like the US is a net borrower, using savings from other countries to finance its spending.
And this graph brings it all full circle. That top line shows the U.S. current account balance. You can see for decades it's been mostly negative. That means for decades the U.S. has been spending more than it produces. And to finance all that overspending, it had to borrow from the rest of the world, year after year after year.
Each of those annual deficits was like adding another brick to a giant wall of debt. And as that bottom line on the graph shows, America's net foreign wealth just plummeted over time, flipping it from a creditor nation to the world's biggest debtor. That $11 trillion number we started with, it's not a mystery. It's the simple, powerful result of decades of this accounting in action.
Which leaves us with a final, kind of mind-bending thought. When a country's foreign assets and debts are this huge, for the US, they are way bigger than its entire GDP, what happens when global markets or exchange rates get a little shaky? A simple 10% swing in currency values doesn't just change the price of a vacation. It can shift trillions of dollars of wealth from one country to another overnight, completely redrawing the economic map in an instant.